Okay, we are recording. This is February 28th, 2023, and we are interviewing our infinite wisdom guest, Stu Zimmerman. Yay! And I am just so thrilled that Stu agreed to have a chat with us because, as you will see, he is quite the fountain of energy, positive energy. And we're going to get into the background and his background and talk about how he converted over to our side of the fence and when that happened. And we're also going to have time for Q&A at the end. But get ready, because this is going to be super fun. And let me just mute. And I think you're really going to enjoy it. So without giving a whole lot of background, because that will come out in our discussion, I'm welcoming Stu Zimmerman from Sedona. Yay!
Thank you so much, Hope. It's just a pleasure to be here and with everybody else who's here right now and those who may be watching at some other point in time.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you, my friend. And I wish we lived closer, because I would be with you on those hikes of yours.
I just took one this afternoon, actually, in preparation for today. Get some of that Sedona land energy embodied.
Perfect. Because let me tell you, the pictures that Stu puts out when he does these wonderful hikes. Oh, the pictures. I just want to get on a plane and run to wherever you just were. So thank you for those images. Now let's go back. Let's go to the Wayback Machine. And let's talk about you and where you came from and how you got to where you are now. So take us on a little trip.
Okay. Well, we can go, I guess, way back to the land of normality. Long Island is where New York, wedged between a few malls, is where I grew up, and it seemed to be a rather normal existence. And as we mentioned before we started recording, my father's name was Norm. So I guess I was on that track, and was taught. I grew up in a Jewish family, and somehow it seemed to be part of the culture to possibly a bit of a stereotype that you got to go for the money. And so I bought that one. And actually the truth is, when my dad was laid off during the recession in 1973, and I saw what an economic strain turned into emotional tension on a deep level in our household, I kind of made a vow to myself. I am never going to let money stand in the way of me and my relationships. So ultimately, I got a degree in finance, an MBA, and went into, East Coast, a little too intense energetically for me. So I did the Go West young man, drove cross country to San Francisco, hung out till the cash ran out, and a little while later landed a job as a stockbroker in San Francisco. And I wound up staying in that business, in the financial securities, mostly with a stock market emphasis for about 18 years. And it was getting close to the peak of my financial success, where in fact, I was a hedge fund manager, go believe. Truly, I believe in incarnation in the same body, because I've had more than one life in this body, even though that one seems like a real distant lifetime, managing money for other people at the time, and making more money and riding that dot-com bubble before it burst. And at the peak of my financial success, my not yet wife, with whom I had a child, was diagnosed with cancer.
Oh.
In fact, to rewind that just a little bit, her name was Terry. I met Terry on a blind date a few months after separating from my first marriage. And she told me that she was a breast cancer survivor of 7 years. One, that cancer was the best thing that ever happened to her. And some kind of alarm went off inside me, like, I've got something to learn from this woman. She also told me that because of the chemo and radiation she had had 7 years prior, that she was scientifically determined to be sterile. 6 months after we meet, not so much. Miracle on our hands. And I know Nathan, and he's 25 right now. And a year after she gave birth, she got re-diagnosed. It came back in her bones, and the chemo and radiation was so toxic. It was a negative, below zero quality of life.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of frantically looking for an alternative healing for her led me to Sedona, where a realtor in a high rent district, I live in a town called Tiburon, outside of San Francisco, with a view of the Golden Gate Bridge, testimony to making all the money I was ever hoping to make in the world, and surprisingly not buying us or my family the kind of happiness we thought it would.
Mm-hmm.
So I might as well share this piece. So I go to Sedona, and I hear that I am going to be part of a healing ceremony as well. Well, didn't really know much about alternative healings and everything. And I don't know, I'm a normal guy, money manager in the stock market. What would I want to have healed? Right? But I'll tell you, Hope, and everybody, in a rare moment of self-reflection, and really coming down to being a money manager, I wanted my money's worth. What would I want to have healed? Well, I did notice when the markets went against me, I really did beat myself up. And I said things to myself I wouldn't dare repeat to anybody else. And in that self-reflective moment, so I knew somehow that it had its roots in self-doubt. Because otherwise, any bad day, week, month, even a longer period, you know what, comes with the territory. But if you're confident with your skills over time, you'll do just fine. So as it turns out, my father, Norm, who was as much of a spiritual compass that I ever thought I needed, he had passed away a few years earlier. And the last time I saw him alive, I said, Dad, the thing that bothers me most about your passing away is you're not going to be there for me to give me advice when I need it. And God bless him, even though he was pretty much a close adherent to the Jewish faith and not so much metaphysical. He said, I'm not sure exactly how it works on the other side, but I'll do my absolute best to get you the answers you need.
Wow.
Which is beautiful.
Yeah.
And so suffice it to say, I really hadn't played that card until going to Sedona. And it is the spring of 1999. We wind up doing this thing called holotropic breathing. I'm not sure if people are familiar with, but essentially laying down on the ground with music blaring, whether it was tribal drums or rainforest music, something that already is kind of disorienting and kind of shifting where I think I am, just going into deep, rhythmic, continued breathing. And at some point in time, I was a 4-year-old boy sitting in my father's lap. And it was so real to me that I could feel his breath on my cheek. And I just started crying because I probably hadn't sat in his lap since I was 4. I said, Dad, where do I get my self-doubt from? He said, it's not yours, it's mine. And I'll tell you, I don't know whether you call it grace or the sincere desire for healing or whatever, but I was in this altered yet somehow lucid state. I had the follow-up question. Well, would you take it back? And I swear, I was hit with a lightning bolt of energy in my body, and I flopped like a fish out of water or whatever, like nothing I had ever experienced in my entire life. And I knew something was lifted from me that day. I've still had moments of lack of confidence or whatever, but never so deep or as long lasting ever since. But the real lesson that I got was that reality is so far beyond what meets the eye. And that put me on the journey.
Oh,
The true nature of who I am, what this life is all about, and maybe even why I'm here. And within 2 years, it essentially healed me out of being a money manager in the stock market to focus on, let's say, the kind of wealth that money can't buy.
wow. Wow. And you went to live in Sedona.
I did.
So how did that happen after this experience? What
So
happened?
within a year of my having that experience, and I actually went back there a few months, about 6 months later, to heal my heart to a point where I opened myself up enough to believe enough in the possibility of a happy marriage to be open to getting remarried.
Mhm.
And so we get engaged. I ask her to marry me, propose on the same day that she winds up getting a clean bill of health.
Wow.
And I know. And it was just at the end of 1999, I wound up completing that year up over 50%, making more money than I thought I was. I was on top of the world. The love of my life was in full health. We're going to live happily ever after. I am going to make this wedding a testimony to, to life and overcoming obstacles and making a lot of coin. Had it in Napa Valley, and no expenses spared. A rock that barely, had to hold 2 hands to get their finger up. And then 6 weeks, we get all these plans in place, and 6 weeks later, she starts getting headaches, which turned out to be 5 brain tumors.
Oh, geez.
And she was using our wedding date, which is about 6 months out, as a wedding rally date. Probably as like a rallying date to rally her energy, because she had so conquered cancer on a couple of occasions already. Unfortunately, she really wasn't able to turn the corner so much. And but we did get married because that's what she wanted, and went through with it. Had an amazing party. Not so much of a true union because she was so ill. Right around that time, and in the interim, I wound up buying some land here in Sedona, thinking that this is a place I would want to come to at some point, and whether you call that retirement or you just call that living or whatever. So that kept me coming back, because either way, it was really clear that Sedona was not only like a bit of a spiritual birthplace for me, but also like an energetic outlet that I could plug into and recharge. So it turns out, God bless Terry, she did pass about a year and plus later, maybe almost 2 years later. Yeah. I wound up meeting another gal in Sedona, who, strangely enough, we kind of fall in love when she's 7 months pregnant. And so I was not the biological father, which was something that I found rather shocking about myself in my capacity to do that. And that boy was every bit my son.
Wow.
He is every bit my son. And what's amazing is I always wanted to know unconditional love beyond bloodlines. So got it for the parents, got it for the kids. Everybody else kind of has to earn it on some level. And that boy, Kai, is his name, Kai, was my first unconditional loving being that I love fully, completely, and is every bit my son. Yeah.
So you had 2 boys you were
I did.
raising.
Yeah. I had 2 girls with my first marriage and 2 boys. And then just to polish off the whole story, might as well, I figure I've got enough mouths to feed. I'm already unwound the whole money management business thing. So I'm grateful I didn't walk away from that game show empty-handed. I definitely had a bit of a nest egg there on one level, but I wasn't really generating current income or anything that would closely resemble my expenses, let's say. I got enough mouths to feed. I'm going to make an appointment for a vasectomy. I make an appointment, and 3 days later, we find out she's pregnant. And not only is she pregnant, she's 13 weeks. She missed her first trimester completely, just breastfeeding Kai. And actually, her first inclination was, you know what? Maybe she doesn't need to have another mouth to feed either. And then one of my, I guess, spiritual practices or go-tos in time of need is I go to the mirror. And I typically ask the same question. WTF? What do I do now? You know? And I got the answer so clearly there. It's like, I call in joy into my life. And I heard so clearly, I will have more than my fair share if I can accept the unexpected packages that they can come in. And this little soul is hearing last call on the gene pool and must be an amazing being. Suffice it to say, Sophia Maya, who turns 20 on Saturday, is one of the most amazing beings I've ever encountered.
Wow.
So what a blessing she is. What a blessing they all are. My two oldest, Alana and Genevieve, and Nathan, Kai, and Sophia. It's like, it's like flowers in a bouquet. Each one of them has their unique beauty and aura and talents and gifts. So yeah. So there's that.
Wow, I didn't realize you had so many children.
Yeah, exactly.
That's fascinating. And you really did get that last surprise, and you had a choice to make, and you went for it. Yes.
And by the way, just in case anyone's really curious, I went to that appointment. Sorry, but no more kids in my story.
You've done your best to populate the world, so good job.
Yeah, thanks. And so that actually, my beloved, with whom I had child, we stayed together for a few years. She decided that she'd rather be back in Sedona, and I wanted to stay in California for my son who lost his mother, so that he could be closer to his maternal grandparents and have that, maternal lineage connection. But that kept me coming back to Sedona. And then I finally was able to unleash California from me, from my grip. And I moved here about 5 years ago, full time.
Wow. Well, I met you then pretty soon after you'd moved there.
Yeah, you did. You came out when Gary was out here.
Yeah, it was about 4 years ago, I think.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, it seemed like you were such a native.
I had come back. I was there a couple times, maybe 3 times a year, visiting, whether it's the kids and, I developed community there as well. So,
well, it's definitely your place. I mean, you fit like a glove into that incredible environment. So let's talk about how you ended up getting this media company going and what your whole vision was. And so you left finance, and all this stuff was going on in your personal life. And when did you change?
So the first thing I did was, and it was kind of like right in response to 9/11, which was very shortly after I unwound my business, where I felt like the world was having its cataclysm on a macro scale that I had been experiencing with Terry and her cancer. So I wound up writing a book called Inner Security and Infinite Wealth, Merging Self-Worth and Net Worth. And I've always loved playing with words. And I used 8 everyday kind of simple financial concepts that have greater than financial meaning, like will, like trust, appreciation. They're all regularly used in a money conversation, whether it's the last will and testament or trust accounts, or anybody who invests for appreciation, capital appreciation. And of course, they're all portals to a wealth and security beyond money. Having this a will for the here and now, and really tapping into that, solar plexus will center, and having that sense of clarity and passion and fire for what we're here to serve and create in this world. Or appreciation, obviously, is a deep form of gratitude. And we all know the power of that. So after that, I did some seminars around it, and it didn't feel quite right. And just kind of asking, how can I best serve? How can I best serve? And one day I wake up and I hear a voice that sounded like George Burns from Oh God. Have you thought about the media, schmuck? Everybody tuned in. So, okay. So I start a radio show called Inside Wealth, but it's about the wealth inside of us. It's the joy for living. And if we're going to talk about financial wealth, how can we create it by bringing out the best of who we are as humans? And so I wound up doing that radio show in San Francisco. It actually got picked up by Sirius Satellite. And I did that for 3 years. And that's my first foray into the media. And I enjoyed it. And then I started hearing these voices, video podcasts. So I created a video series called with a number of the people who I had interviewed on that show, called Inner Espresso, where we in 90 seconds or less translated higher consciousness or universal law into business speak.
Wow.
And I had some really good speakers, and including some executive coaches like a Marshall Goldsmith, who had a regular column in Fortune or Business Week, and all kinds of very interesting people. A billionaire named Warren Hellman, who has since passed on, but even today his legacy lives. He funded this thing called the Not Strictly Hardly Bluegrass Festival in Golden Gate Park once a year.
I know it well. Wow.
Yeah. So I was lucky and able to interview people in that radio show like Deepak Chopra, Marianne Williamson, Neil Donald Walsh, Gay Hendricks, Gene Houston, Byron Katie. It was like most of the spiritual mafia. And I say that lovingly. But it kind of ran its course, and I ran into the buzzsaw of the downturn in 2008, 2009, kind of let things go for a little while. A dear friend in Santa Barbara invited me to be part of a television show down there called Get Conscious Now. And so that was my first foray into close to live TV. It was a live show, but live to tape. That was on public access in Santa Barbara. I did that for 4 years. Started to feel like, talking heads are great, but life is a full-bodied experience. And I said, I want to do some videos that are full-bodied, that get us out in the world and do whatever. And so that inspired me to create this company called Only the Source, which we have a tagline, the next human OS, as if we're an operating system, only source. And start without any business model whatsoever, start to put out some videos and some little vignettes and little segments, and just see where it all goes. And it's evolved into a podcast, a couple of podcasts. It's evolved into one full hour-long live in front of 170 people, our version of Saturday Night Live last year, called Better Than Sex. And it wasn't at all about sex. Actually, the topic was self-love. And it was very much about speaking and living your truth, and letting that creative expression that's uniquely you be fully expressed in the world. and having some tools to navigate the obstacles we all face on the road. So that's how it's been evolving. And there's another new series in the works called Near Future News, where we're going to be taking our time traveling reporter about 15 years into the future. And against all odds, humanity is highly evolved.
Woohoo!
Woo! And each episode will highlight one aspect of what life is like, in how all of humanity can be served in a much higher quality of life. But the first two episodes being on water and food, that it's clean, it is ubiquitous, even in the desert, wherever you are. In the case of water, it's actually structured to promote cellular health and well-being. So maybe people don't need to spend as much resource on healthcare, insurance, and all those other things, because one hallmark of enlightened society and higher frequencies, higher energies, is that the body feels good.
Yes.
The body
Yes.
feels good. And the same thing holds for food. And by the way, in both cases, they happen to be free. Welcome to being human. This is our birthright. We actually have enough resource to go around for everybody. And the series will address just about every aspect and structure in life we can imagine.
Wow. Wow. That's wow.
So,
That
was a sneak preview.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I want to ask you, Stu, at the moment when you had that, how you did the breathing and you had your first epiphany, one of many, I believe. Did you reach out to any teachers or written texts, or where did you go for your spiritual inspiration?
Good question. Thank you. Yeah, I definitely started to read some different things and I was very much taken by the Four Agreements because I found them to be so simple. Not necessarily easy.
Right.
Don't make assumptions. I don't know. That's how. Don't take things personally.
Right.
Those are habits that give, they take a little while to unwind.
They do. They
Yeah.
do.
And still, I just so appreciated the simplicity of that. What else did I really enjoy reading? There was a book called Oneness by Rasha. There's a channeled work, and it described awakening in energetic terms as like a stair-step function.
Yes.
That there are points where we're cruising. We think we have some degree of awakenness or awareness, and we think we kind of understand this life we have a bit, and then all of a sudden we come to this.
Yes.
Typically, it's health related, relationship related, career or finance related, and then that upsets the apple cart.
Yes.
And then we start to question everything we think we knew. And all of a sudden we're in the spin cycle in a washing machine somewhere, and is it ever going to get out? And that's actually the turmoil and the fertilizer for the next level.
Yes.
And as we go through that turmoil, we get to a next level, and then we cruise for a little bit. Okay, we think we got a handle on things now, until the next piece of adversity comes in.
Yes. Yes.
And there ain't no there supposedly, so it just gets higher and higher and higher.
I just want to. I've never heard it described so closely to exactly what I've taught over the years. To me, I call it. It's like you're going along and all of a sudden you bump your nose on a glass wall that you didn't even know was there, and it shatters, and you go through the spin cycle and all that stuff and then you think you've got it together, and then you hit your next, right? And that it's this spiral of evolution that never does end. But what I love is that, to me, each one of those shatterings is an enlightenment. that we never go under the Bodhi tree and just bonk, that's it. It's not like a race that we get to and win and then we're done. It's a series of enlightenments, and he's just as you're describing it. And somebody who's on this call, Patricia, is very acquainted with the oneness thing, and she writes about it and so on. But and I think there was a whole body of work that came out of that, groups and this and that and the other thing. Yeah, so she was involved with that. But I'm so happy to hear that, because it's exactly what my experience has been, and then after the second one, you're really humbled because there's going to be another one. It's waiting for you, and just get ready, because it's going to happen.
Right. In fact, another thing that was really helpful to me, I tried to get into the Course in Miracles, and I had a little difficulty with it. But when I was struggling with Terry and her cancer, I did join this caregivers group through an organization called the Center for Attitudinal Healing.
Oh.
Formed by a fellow named Jerry Jampolsky. And it was originally for children and their families who had life-threatening illnesses. And so loosely based on the Course in Miracles, but they had a deck of cards. And there was maybe 8 or 9 of us in the same caregivers group, and we'd all pick a card. Well, it got to the point I was picking the same card every time. And so being the ham that I am, I start rolling up my sleeves and making a whole big, nothing up here, nothing up here. What card am I picking, everybody? Boom, the same card every time. And that was, in my defenselessness, my safety lies. In my defenselessness, my safety lies. And so to me, that was more than one book in a sentence.
Beautiful. Wow. That's a beautiful sentence. Wow. And then you got to meet all these people and talk to all these thought leaders, spiritual leaders, and all of that. So you're getting direct information from them. Now, yes. At some point, I imagine, because you said you sort of started to hear things, you heard George Burns, and did you get to a point where you felt like you were receiving direct information?
Yes, absolutely. And, I've been in a number of plant medicine ceremonies and circles. And through that, I've actually had the direct experience that goes beyond words. To say that everything is energy. Everything is vibration. So whatever I think I am, ultimately, is just a bunch of vibration from moment to moment. We can call it emotion. We can slap words on it that can kind of describe what the feeling and sensation is. But having that awareness has actually now taken me into like a new set of practices that has me, as I'm noticing that like vibrational presence or loving presence is everything, and a practice for me now that I do my best to adhere to. And even things like connecting to the sun.
Yes.
It's so accessible.
Yes.
And I know it's been worshipped throughout the ages. To me, it makes perfect sense. That to me, it's like the physical embodiment of unconditional love. It shows up for all of us every day, no matter how much we mess up.
Yes.
And provides for all of our existence, even when it doesn't even appear to be out, or even when it's shining on the other side of the world. It still provides for our existence. And there's another quality about it that I also pay attention to is, obviously I'm pretty blessed with a nice olive complexion, so I can take in a fair amount of sun. But no matter how much sun I take in, there's always enough for everybody else. So to me, that's like, it's like infinite abundance.
Yes.
So between unconditional love and infinite abundance, let's see how much I can suck that into the core of my being.
Oh, that's great. Yes, I am with you. I am with you. When I started waving with the sun,
Mm.
the sun came in and talked to me one day when I was in the middle of doing a sound bowl meditation for a small group. And it was very unexpected. I'd never talked to the sun before, but all of a sudden it's right here talking to me and saying, y'all take me for granted. In fact, y'all think, and there was no y'all, but I'm just saying, much of the world considers me dangerous and, hides from me and slathers themselves up with stuff to not, and you don't know, you've forgotten who I am. And it wasn't ego. It wasn't like an ego-y thing. It's just like, wake up, honey. I'm something. Don't just take it for granted every day. And so after that, I started waving with the sun. And within 30 seconds of waving with the sun, so I'm from my heart to the sun, right? Running the infinity wave. My eyes are closed because it's the sun. But it gets brighter. And I open my eyes and I'm looking around. Did it just come out of clouds? We have no clear blue sky, no clouds. Okay. And it happens every day. Whether it's cloudy, anytime I wave with the sun, within a few seconds, it gets brighter. And I always say, I honor you and thank you for another light-filled, life-filled day. Mm. And it's just so accessible. And that's when I realized what all these sun-loving cultures were about, these sun-worshiping cultures. Like, duh, it's right there. And that you can have a personal relationship. And it's a miracle, right? Yeah, so I'm with you on that, but I love what you said. I could all the sun I got and everybody else, there's plenty for everyone. That's beautiful, just beautiful. Well, listen, I want you to tell people about your vocabulary.
Okay, yeah. So one of the skits that we've been putting together is something that will probably ultimately become a book called Thriving World Dictionary. Because to live in a more loving world, we need some new words.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yesence.
Yesence. Okay, here we go.
Oh, I forgot my t-shirt. I should have worn it.
Yesence.
Yesence.
The definition is on the back. I'll turn around. Hopefully I'll be in the frame if I kind of twist this way. If you can see
Yes,
it.
we can see it.
Being all in, going all out. Yesence.
I love it so much.
Yesence. In fact, I've started to, one of the new things I'm doing now is open mic stand-up here. They have for comedy. And I'm actually going to be out there in about an hour and a half. So that's going to be great fun. And one of the things that I kind of point to is the words that we use currently in everyday language. They all have vibrations, right? They all cast a spell, which is why you spell your words to begin with. And the ones we use every day really bring us down, starting with typically the first syllable we greet people with. Hell, as in hello, which is kind of nutty, but in a strange way, it makes sense because when we wake up every day, it's morning. So we're in a state of grief. Every day we wake up. And after 7 days of waking up in mourning, we get weak. So I gotta say, so we definitely need some new words. And I go with, why if you put harm and money you get harmony. It's harm and money. It's like, really? Yeah, I know.
So what's your alternative to that?
Well, is to start to create new words. So we have yesence, that's being all in and going all out. we put out a video on that. So we actually have like a minute long kind of, video explaining how it could be everything from just savoring that cup of coffee in the morning, or, just appreciating the beauty of a skyline or a mountain range, or, each other. And it could be something as momentous as, a graduation or these major, rites of passage in life. Another word we created is beweaving. Beweaving. As a unified state where you can't discern where one ends and another begins.
Oh, I love it.
That's a video we shot in the Redwoods outside, just north of San Francisco, because they appear to be individual trees, but their root structures are completely intertwined.
Yes, yes, yes.
So we even show, like, you go like this and you get the nice warm kinetic energy going, and you put your hands close to somebody else's without touching. It's like, whose heat is it? So as humans, we can be weaving in consciousness and presence and
I love it. I love it. I love it.
And what else do we have? Oh, here's a good one. Returnity. Returnity. That's being in a timeless state again. Because, on one level, it's really helpful to be on the clock. Otherwise, we wouldn't be all here together on this call. Right? We said it at 7:30 Eastern, and we all know we need to show up at this time. Otherwise, we kind of miss each other. And of course, it's those timeless moments when we really drop in, whether it's because we're doing something we love and we get so engrossed in it that time just flies by, or whether we just spend time with somebody we absolutely love and just connect in such beautiful ways where either time stands still or there is no accounting for it.
Love it.
And ironically, it's those timeless moments that are the times of our lives.
Yes, yes. True. True. So true. Wow.
Yeah. So let's see. I got probably a couple of others for you.
Yeah.
How about this one? Fun believable.
I love that one.
Fun believable. It's more fun than you ever thought possible. Until you experience it. And then it's fun believable.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah. So like one time I went to the World Series to see my favorite baseball team. It was like my first love, the St. Louis Cardinals. I actually lived in St. Louis very briefly before our family moved to Long Island. And that's where I learned baseball. And like my first love outside my parents was the St. Louis Cardinal baseball team. Had this dream to be at the World Series because we got there and they just won the World Series. Oh, that's so cool. Well, it took over 40 years, but I finally got there. Ninth inning, 55,000 people are standing, screaming joy at the top of their lungs. And it was a vibration unlike anything I had ever experienced. It was so palpable. It was like, I imagine like it was like being in the middle of a beehive where everything is just it was incredible. It was incredible. And it actually brought tears to my eyes that so many people were experiencing joy simultaneously. And when I opened my eyes, it was like the game was over. And I know, crazy. And I had this vision that we could be getting together in those kind of numbers and having that kind of experience of screaming yesence at the top of our lungs, simply to raise our frequency and to blast that energy out into the world and to all whom we encounter as we break out, and do that as a conscious practice where there doesn't need to be a baseball game or anything else going on. This is just ultimately a game of consciousness.
Is this in your future plan?
I'm certainly open to that occurring, and but that was something for me. Just even having that vision for me was fun believable. That's why I brought that.
It really, that's a great idea. Wouldn't it be incredible if people just kind of sort of took turns? Oh, I'm going to go to do my fun believable thing today. And they gathered in a stadium and they, just did that.
What?
Wow.
I'm really, thank you for asking that. I'm gonna sit with that. That may wind up being, maybe there's a tour, a fun, believable tour
Yeah,
that
yeah,
we can kind of
definitely.
put together, and whether it's hitting up college towns or hitting up just major metropolitan areas and having some form of, experiential entertainment that is intended to really anchor a high vibrational experience.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Stu, if anybody can do it, you can.
Oh,
All right,
thanks.
let's open up the floor to some Q&A, all right? Let me take this off of here and see if we have some folks who would like to chime in any way, comments or questions. Mr. Stu? Anybody?
I just
Nobody?
love his energy. You are such a happy camper. You've got like a 9-year-old inside you that never grew up and is with everything that you've gone through, plus that 9-year-old, you're still having fun. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing it.
Thank you. And, thank you for acknowledging that, because I know it's this little boy inside me that does a lot of the writing and a lot of the creation of a lot of the skits that I write and make up. I even have, so in addition to that near future news where we take our current timeline and extend it outward, I've created another little skit series called Parallel University, which takes place in a parallel universe where the United States are united.
Ah.
Strange concept.
Ah.
And again, it's from this little boy's perspective of, can't we all just get along? Isn't there enough for everybody? And so I start writing up these different classes of things I wish I would have learned. So the mathematics class, I call it crystal math. And so here's another sneak preview equation for you that I just wrote up. It's T plus T plus T plus T equals T. Strangely enough, and actually it's applying the theory of relativity to relationship. And so it's truthfulness plus transparency plus timely communication plus tenderness equals trust.
Oh, Stu, I just love that. It's so simple, but it's so distilled and pure.
Well, that's definitely, I know that it's my little boy,
Well, you've got a very wise little boy, I'll say that. I think
Knows how
it's
to play.
I think it's a
Yes.
believing of your little boy and your wise higher self, current self, whatever.
Yeah, and that's how I feel I actually best serve, is actually through play. Because, and I actually feel like I'm ultimately really here to serve more of a mainstream world that may not even consider themselves to be on a spiritual journey. They just know that the status quo is difficult at best, and they may not know any way out. And so, or up, as the case may be. And so to offer up through playfulness, through yesence, through fun believable, are things that I feel it can relax people's nervous systems and open people up to say, you know what, I don't need to go into, yogic disciplines, to go into some foreign lineages that they may have difficulty, as being foreign or ancient or whatever. But energy is energy, beauty is beauty. And one of the things I love about Sedona is that you can have the most conservative people in the world, the most liberal people in the world, and everybody in between, and they can all be here and say, wow, this place is incredibly beautiful. And so anything I can do to help to point to really what we can all perceive in common.
Yeah.
And is something that I feel can hopefully really invite mass numbers into a more loving presence.
God bless you, Stu, because, and you have experienced the transition from the normal life to a much more awakened life. And so who better to speak to that? And it's so important for someone to be that bridge. We need as many bridges as we possibly can have. And that you are jazzed up about doing that is fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. I wish you so much luck on your journey, so much abundance and success. Now, before we go, I want to make sure everybody knows that they too can get a Essence t-shirt.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So I actually have a Shopify store where actually you can come to my website, onlythesource.com.
I put it in the chat.
Excellent. Onlythesource.com. And if you hit shop, you'll see what our wares are. And in a couple of weeks, we'll be coming out with a new line of Sedona-centric Essence shirts with the artists with the red rocks and all the rest there. So for those of you who've ever been to Sedona and you want to combine that with Essence, you may need to wait a couple extra weeks. Otherwise, this particular design is already there in a couple of different shapes and sizes and colors. And there's that.
Yes, I have a white one and I wear it with pride. I love it so much. And I have to say, it is a very fine quality cotton. It's not flimsy. It's like really nice.
It's organic. This is 100% organic cotton. We have one other model that is all of recycled materials. So we were doing our best to be ecologically sound and
well, it feels great on the body and looks great, comes out of the dryer fine. So I highly recommend getting one. And then you can do a picture of yourself wearing it in a great location.
Yeah, that would be beautiful. That would be beautiful because people are responding to the Essence. We just came back from Los Angeles at the Conscious Life Expo.
Yeah.
And I was able to, infiltrate with a number of different t-shirts. And I was actually in the talent show there and was actually able to get everybody to stand up and scream Essence.
There you go. That's your first one.
From their fingertips as part of the Funbelievable experience.
There you go.
So it was great fun.
Oh, that's great. Good for you. Good for you. Well, does anybody have one last thing to say before we?
Open book. Yeah.
Norm, did you want to ask a question there, mister?
So, Stu.
Yes, sir.
Having gone through death of a partner of cancer this past year and then death of my father, I definitely get where you're coming from, because what the hell, let's play. If this is what happens when you take life way too seriously, let's play. And so it's winter, so this is when I play, skiing. And we had like 6 inches here, and I went skiing today, and thankfully the lady I was with said, I'm done early, because she was teaching an online class. And so yes, your enthusiasm for like, okay, life can be really challenging, and you're still, like you say, that inner kid. Let it out, let it play, let it shine.
Oh, Norm, thanks for sharing that, and glad to hear that you are enjoying your life so much, and spreading the joy that you are.
You and Hope remind us all that, yeah, when you go through the peduncle, one of Hope's vocabulary words, go through that squeeze point of life, you always come out on the other side. And it sounds trite, but when you do, it's like, oh, wait, why was I so serious for so long? Holy cow, what a beautiful day. What a beautiful sun. moon, ski
Mhm.
area, snowflake, call it what you will, painting behind you. By the way,
Yes.
did you paint that? Is that one of
I
your works?
wish. Actually, a dear friend of mine painted it, and the strange thing about him is that he's colorblind.
What?
Can't make this shit up. Pardon the expression. That's true. That's true. But
It's,
yeah,
go ahead.
yeah. A fellow in Sedona, Treya Christopher Gray, is the artist, and he's magnificent. He has incredible work. But Norm actually reminded me of one other episode of awakening, or just deep experience that I had, and that was, in the throes of grief and upset and anger and fear. I actually had a dark night of the soul type of experience where I just didn't have any rest for the weary kind of thing. I was still managing money. Terry was so ill. I had 2 children from a prior marriage who were, every time they came over to the house, they were freaked out because the energy of death was like so thick you could cut it. And relieved the nanny. And then I took care of our young son, Nathan. It was like, and I was managing money in a high stress situation every day. It's like, I felt like Wile E. Coyote, or one of those cartoon characters where everything had blown up and he keeps holding one brick, he probably dropped it. And so I gave myself the permission to feel all the pain and the fear. I was afraid that my son, who was so young, would be emotionally scarred for not having a mother. And all the betrayal, God, you send me somebody I could love for the rest of my life, and you're taking her from me. And it's like, it's all messed up. And all the other things that went through my mind and the rest of my being. And after some period of time being curled up and saying, okay, I'm here in the house of pain, I got to be at work on Monday, bring it on. What else you got? What else you got? And even with my eyes clenched shut and seeing nothing but black, at some point, and asking to bring it on and bring it on, like these pinholes of light started to open up. And the more I asked for essentially more pain, there was more light. And I really got on a deep, visceral body knowledge, knowing that I am that light, and that I was only experiencing pain because I love so deeply. And the clincher for me was that nobody can take from me what I am. And that, for some reason, I just found that to be, on one level, just a great source of relief. It's like, yay,
Yeah.
I am a loving being. I knew it when I was a kid. I knew it, and somehow it got misguided or not sure or twisted and turned with all the, trying to figure out who I am in this material world. And to come back to that place of I am this loving being, and it is such a blessing that I get to be in this form, that it really, I think, helped to awaken the child within me. Ultimately.
Oh, wow. That's powerful, Stu. Loving and lovable.
Yes.
Worthy of loving. Loving and worthy of loving. Wow. Wow. Beautiful. Just beautiful. Well, I really don't have anything to say after that. That was a really beautiful wrap up there, Mr. So thank you, Stu, and thank you everybody for coming on and joining into this really beautiful chat tonight. I think we are all going away a little bouncier than when we came. That's for sure. Yeah. And we're all going to try to use some of these words.
Yeah. And by the way, I've just been putting it out there, even as like a love donation. If anybody wants to talk or just, reach out, and things are seemingly difficult for whatever reason, because occasionally they are, anything I can do to support you and just be a reflection, maybe help remind you who and what you are at the core, And I know that Hope is so wise and so capable in having those waves of emanation of truth and love just pour forth. And if it's ever helpful to hear it from another angle in any way, just know that, please feel free to reach out.
Absolutely, because you've just started to say that you do that. You would be
Yeah. I've been helping couples and I've been helping individuals with whether it's finance related or health related or family related or relationship related. It's, this world has, there's a lot of ups and downs, or can be.
Yes.
And sometimes they can seem to be really difficult and we can't always figure out how to get through them alone, and we don't need to because we're not alone.
So they can contact you through
Absolutely.
the website.
Yeah. Or I'm Stu, STU. Should I be typing this in the chat?
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
please.
Stu at onlythesource.com. And I have to tell you, Hope, I love you and I am so grateful for this invitation today.
Well, buddy, I love you too. That's why I invited you.
Yeah. And I just want to honor all the work that you do here and your dedication, where you will go anywhere and everywhere in the world to facilitate greater awakening and greater heart opening.
Yeah.
And
Just like you.
yeah, you do it in your way, which is uniquely you, and also just profoundly beautiful.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Well, we all are in this together. And so we're all flowering out, right? And finding the way to express that. So, man, this is so wonderful, Stu. Thank you. And I've got to get back out there. I'm hoping to, I'll cut down let me stop the recording first. And I'll say
Okay.
good night to everybody.